everybody, and welcome to Breeders' Cup Focus 2020. I'm Dan Illman along with Mike Beer. In this edition of Breeders' Cup Focus, we'll preview some of the major contenders for this year's Breeders' Cup Mile. Let's take a look at the top 10. They are ranked in preliminary morning line order, and the preliminary morning line for DRF made by DRF's Brad Free, as you can see by the morning line. A wide open affair expected for this year's Breeders' Cup Mile. Brad's preliminary favorite is Forza, 4-1. Talk about a tepid favorite, Mike.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the field ultimately shakes out there. As you can see on the list there, not a lot of Europeans in the mix, at least at this stage of the game. We'll see how many of them actually wind up shipping over. If we don't get too many of those horses, it just feels like one of those races where perhaps a lot of different horses could win.
I guess one of the early European contenders is Kamiko. This is a son of Kitten's Joy, won the 2000 Guineas in his seasonal debut, and he got back on the beam most recently with a Group 2 win. I think he's okay, especially at a mile, and you always have to respect the Europeans, but it's not like a lot of years where the Europeans come over here and they've got us over a barrel. He's a nice horse, but he can be had.
No, he's very talented, and he's only a 3-year-old, though. So we'll see, if he takes a step forward in a race like this. Obviously, he's tough. It seems like, sort of looking into his connections and what they've been saying about him, they do want to come for the race, but he really needs firm ground. So if it's a horse, he comes over, remember the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland a few years ago, they did not have firm ground that day. So we'll see what the weather shapes out for this horse.
Forza is your 4-1 preliminary morning line favorite on Brad's line, and he always hinted at being a nice horse last year at 3 for Peter Miller. He missed a lot of time after a somewhat disappointing run at a distance a little too far for him in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. And by the way, that trip didn't exactly work out for Forza either. He's come back rolling in Southern California, including this victory in the City of Hope Mile, and he's found his niche, I think, as a turf miler. We see him in the blue silks. He's going to straighten himself out now, get to the outside and roll by these horses. Not the greatest company, some hard hitters. He's going to have to prove it in the Breeders' Cup Mile. So far, he's passed every test.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it certainly feels like a race like the Breeders' Cup is going to be a much tougher test for this horse, but I'm not going to knock what this horse has been doing lately, Dan, especially as you mentioned, going the mile. It feels like that's really his distance. His last 2 races are both very good.
Brazilian bred, Argentine raced, Ivar has really come into his own. Let's watch this victory at Keeneland in the Shadwell Turf Mile. Now, we were expecting him to be close to the pace in this race. It didn't matter. He saved his speed for the end, as a great man once said. And here's Ivar flying down the center of the track to win. It's now 3 consecutive triple-digit Beyer speed figures for Ivar. You know he can adapt to any kind of pace situation. And all of a sudden, this horse has kind of exploded onto the scene as a now contender for the mile.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he was a contender going into that race just because he had run 2 fast races in a row. But as you mentioned, it just sort of felt like he was going to be close to the pace in there. Maybe that wouldn't work out. Didn't get close to the lead, and it didn't matter. You saw how fast he was finishing there, Dan, to run that field over. I was pretty impressed by that performance. You saw Raging Bull come with a run there too late at the end. That seems like that's sort of par for the course for that horse. But Raging Bull's another horse who fits pretty well in this field.
Raging Bull, of course, trained by Chad Brown, as is Uni. And after Uni's first 2 starts this year, I think there were some folks wondering, were we ever going to see the real Uni? Did we see the real Uni last time out, Mike? Well, she won the First Lady at Keeneland for the 2nd consecutive year, and she's going to try to win the Breeders' Cup Mile for the 2nd consecutive year. She kicks down with Bo Recall and Newspaper of Record, some nice horses in this race. Is the real Uni back? Or is this just a lesser version?
She might be. Dan, I thought she ran really well in this race, if only because as opposed to some of her other, more eye-catching victories last year, there really was not a lot of pace in that First Lady last time. And she still made a very strong run into it. She was clear at the end. I thought it was a real step in the right direction for Uni. And obviously, when you come Breeders' Cup Day, you just sort of expect them to go a little bit faster in front. And when she has pace to run at, she has a devastating turn of foot.
Factor This has won 5 stakes races this year, including the dinner party at Pimlico last time out. Now, perhaps the yielding ground and an easy trip contributed. but he received a 110 Beyer speed figure. And with his speed, you know he's going to get forwardly placed. He handles any kind of ground. He's a real hard hitter that might be lurking under the radar.
If nothing else, he's improved by leaps and bounds, especially in his recent races. He just does nothing but show up and not only win, Dan, but he's running fast races now. He's actually earning figures that suggest he has a real chance to win, if not win, be very competitive in a race like the Breeders' Cup.
Mare won this race last year. Of course, Uni, Starship Jubilee, going to try to turn the trick. It would be a great story. Claimed for $16,000. She's gone on, I believe, to be a horse of the year in Canada, and she won the Woodbine Mile last time out. Maybe not the greatest addition to the Woodbine Mile, but this mare just keeps showing up time and time again, and she's got figs.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she's very versatile too, as far as trips go too. So they can just put her anywhere they want in a race, and she just tends to show up and run. I liked her win last time. It opens up some options for them because obviously they could still run her in the filly and mare turf as well because she'll get that distance. I mean, they just have a lot of options for a horse who shows up and runs every time.
Do you view Digital Age as a tweener? A horse that might be better at a mile and a 16th, mile and an eighth, maybe not a true miler, maybe not a true mile and a half horse. Chad's got to pick and choose. So, okay, he's going to run in the mile. I personally don't view him that way. I think he's going to be just fine at a mile as long as you give him a little bit of pace. And when you got horses like Factor This in here and a couple of other tactically inclined runners, he should get some pace, and he's got some fast races for Chad.
I actually like him better at a mile. And I know that he won a 9 furlong grade 1 last time, and he was good winning that race. He came from well out of it to close it down at the end with a really strong finish. But I've actually always preferred this horse going a little bit shorter.
Quality all around in the early contenders for this year's Breeders' Cup Mile. Forza, 4-1 preliminary morning line favorite, according to DRF's Brad Free.